Marketing, like a symphony, is a harmonious blend of instruments. But without the proper direction, it's just noise. Welcome to the Supply Chain Marketing Show, presented by Supply Chain Brain Media. From the art of storytelling to the science of data, we'll discover marketing strategies that drive success. In this episode, Ralph Henderson, author Lisa Jones, and Keller Publishing President Brad Berger discuss the silver bullet in business, why your closest friends are the ones you have the most fun with.
Play is so much more than just fun. It's a mindset.
Unleash their personalities, their creativity.
We stop allowing ourselves to play.
Everybody becomes more human.
Play does break down barriers. Take 5 minutes out of your day and play.
Now, here's your guide and host, Ralph Henderson.
Having fun is a serious business. Doing playful activity in your personal life is something that I'm hoping is common for you. And it's also something you did when you were younger and didn't think twice about it. And that's good. Interestingly enough, as we get older and as we become more professional, we find it to be something that maybe isn't as much a part of our life as we might want it to be. But the good news is it's coming back. People are having more fun. People are, entertaining more and bringing playful activity in. And what we know is that is good because relationships depend on us having fun. And that's true in our personal lives. That's true in our professional lives. Today, you are going to be very excited about who we have and what we're going to talk about. You're going to learn something that I believe is going to help you in your personal and professional life create relationships where at the end of the day, you're going to have more trust with your clients and your prospects. That's going to help your business more so than anything you've done for quite a while or even going forward. And to help me talk about that, I have a couple of really great guests. And we're going to talk about the playful activity in supply chain marketing, specifically for supply chain marketing professionals and for those folks who are helping fund what we're doing in order for us to create relationships and to grow our businesses. And with that, I want to bring in my first guest. My first guest is Lisa Jones. Lisa Jones is a speaker. She's a writer. She's a humorist. She is an author. She actually has the ability to help you with creating stronger relationships through playful activity. How are you?
I'm great, Ralph. Thanks for having me on today.
No, my pleasure. Hey, let's dive right into it. One of the things you talked about when we were getting together was how our relationships when we were younger are so strong and why that is. And I would love for you to explain that to the audience.
Yes. Well, first, I want to pose a question and something for us to think about. And that is, did you know that only 2% of adults are considered highly creative? But for 5-year-olds, that number is a staggering 98%. It's
Wow.
kind of shocking, right, Ralph?
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
incredible.
Because somehow as we grow up, what happens is our natural creativity gets stifled. It gets put on the back burner. But just imagine if we could access even a fraction of that 98% creativity that 5-year-olds live in every single day. The potential for innovation could be limitless.
No,
So
that's right.
yes. So let's do a quick exercise. When I say the word play, what comes to mind for you? What feelings come up for you?
Well, I think of football because I'm a big football fan. So I think of the game, I think of the team, I think of winning and losing and competing and all that stuff.
Yeah. So play is so much more than just fun. It's a mindset. It's a way of unlocking creativity and approaching challenges with curiosity and flexibility. It's the same playful energy that helped me see a tricky negotiation from a whole new angle and ultimately get the results that I wanted. So if we think about thinking like a kid again, just for a moment, it makes you realize that as kids, we were practically overflowing with creativity and imagination. The world was a playground of possibilities, if you will. But even as adults, we can still tap into a bit of that childhood creativity and courage. So I want to just imagine for a second a 5-year-old negotiating bedtime like a mini CEO. And you think about that. And they say, I propose a strategic delay and lights out for optimal stuffed animal strategizing and essential teddy bear board meetings. So there's humor there. There's imagination and a dash of boldness. And these are just tools that we can use in real world negotiations too. And I know we've talked about before, Ralph, talking about studies, but studies show that adding humor or lighthearted language, this is where we can ease tension, foster trust, and promote active listening in negotiations. But that's just one example. So we
Right.
want to keep that in mind. Here's really what I believe that tapping into our playful and creative sides, it allows us to communicate with a fresh perspective. And then when we throw in the humor and levity to our interactions, we create stronger connections. We build trust and we foster an environment where everyone feels comfortable contributing their ideas. I know you asked about why relationships as kids were as strong and impactful, but it's not just because we spend a lot of time together, because that's what we do as kids. Time is just one piece of it. The real magic comes from how we spent that time. We connected through shared joy and creativity. So
Yeah.
play allowed us to show up, right?
Yeah,
We
that's
think about
powerful.
this as true selves without the constraints that we have today. And it wasn't about ticking boxes or achieving goals. It was about the journey, laughter, and bonding over the pure thrill of imagination back then.
So for a supply chain marketing professional, why would I want to get into this? Why would I want, to consider what we're talking about today? That is because at the end of the day, you do business with people you trust, and they do
Yes.
too. And to get more trust, this is how this works.
We'll be back after this brief message.
In today's complex supply chain, marketing has never been more critical. But are you leveraging the full potential of your marketing efforts? Supply Chain Brain Media created 2 resources to help you discover what's new and what works. The Supply Chain Marketing Group series is designed to educate you on services and how to implement them into your marketing program. On the Supply Chain Marketing Show, hear firsthand how experts are implementing the elements from the 5 rings of supply chain marketing to drive results. Ready to elevate your marketing game? Schedule a 30-minute consult today. Email Morgan at supplychainbrainmedia.com. Supply Chain Brain Media, your guide to marketing success.
So now what I want to do, though, is I want to talk about the how and the what. So I want to bring on someone who's going to talk to us about the how and the what. And with that, I want to introduce Brad Berger. Brad is the president at Keller Publishing, and he's also the author of a book called The Big Book of Family Games. In addition to being the president of Keller Publishing, he actually also runs Supply Chain Brain. So now for you supply chain marketing professionals, you have somebody in our industry that that is part of one of the most well-known media companies for supply chain information education in the world, that's also somebody who understands how important playful activity is. Welcome, Brad.
Thank you, Ralph.
Yeah, my pleasure. So, Brad, for years, you've been working with companies and putting games together. You've written actually several books, and I know that you actively do this when you're doing conferences, summits, meetings, and things like that. Talk to the audience a little bit about how and what you do as far as how you bring those games together.
Yeah, certainly. And it's interesting when Lisa was talking about the 2% statistic. That's fascinating to me, because a lot of what I do with a lot of companies, including our own at Supply Chain Brain, is exercises that unleash people's creativity, and that's the whole point of it, really. And their personalities, their interests, their likes, dislikes, dreams. And it's been something that I've been doing my whole life, but recently, and it's certainly when COVID began and everybody started working remotely, a lot of companies bring me on to get their employees together on Zoom and get better connected, because a lot of them haven't even met. And so how do you do that? And I'll start with this. In my last book, I have this thing called Beware of Overly Competitive Billy at the beginning of the book. And what I do is I separate everyone into 4 competitive quadrants. You got your quadrant one people who don't even know they're playing a game half the time. They just want to be there. Don't know anything about points or least competitive people in the world. Quadrant two people, they want to know the rules. They want to know what they're doing. But if they see that it's more important for Ralph to win, he's more competitive, I'll let Ralph win. Okay. Then there are the quadrant three people. That's somebody like me. I'm going to play hard. I'm not letting you win, Ralph. But I'm going to play hard at the game. But after the game's over, no big deal. I'm not going to boast about winning or complain too much about losing. And then you got your quadrant four people who are just a mixed bag of crazy. And everybody, those people know who they are. And a lot of times they won't even play a game because they know it's going to be a disaster for everybody. So I look at that first. How do you get people who are that, in all these different quadrants together and interacting and having fun and loosening up? And then we can go on and do other things. So essentially, I always do these getting to know you activities, very simple activities. For example, I might say, Lisa, I'm going to give you 3 activities. You're going to rank them in order of interest. I might say snowboarding, going to a toga party, playing poker. Okay, let's just say those are 3 activities. And you're going to now lock them in. And we're all in playing, whether it's 5, 10, 15 people, we're all going to now talk about Lisa. And the journey of it is more important than Lisa's actual answers, to be honest. It's her answers are important, of course, but we're all going to say, oh, I think Lisa, she's a toga party kind of person. I think she's going to put that first. And you're not going to actually give away any answers, but you're going to have a poker face, Lisa, while we're doing this. And then I think playing poker, and I think Lisa got into a snowboarding accident or something. I think she's going to put that last. I don't know, but everybody's going to, based on how well they know you or not, try to guess what your order is. But it gets people to all be involved, and then of course you'll reveal your answers at the end. But now people start to loosen up and they go, oh, that's interesting. I have all these different activities that I start with to loosen people up, get people talking, unleash their personalities, their creativity, and then we kind of move on to other things. And I've been doing this with a lot of companies, a lot of groups, and as you know, Ralph, our own staff, at the end of our meetings every week, we have these great sessions. Everybody stays, and we have a lot of fun. And
Yeah, no, it's very powerful. It's very powerful. I want the audience to know that, this is something that I don't want you to take lightly, but I don't want you, to think that you have to get too nervous about not doing it or not understanding it. But we do want to talk about 2 things. One is, why don't we do it? And then 2 is, how do we do it? So let's start with the first one. And Lisa, I'll start with you because it's a general, why don't we do it? And then Brad, I'll follow up with you on specifically in the supply chain space, what some of the challenges are. So Lisa, just generally, why don't people in the professional world, especially the B2B world, why don't we do this more?
I would say the why comes from being vulnerable. I think sometimes people they're afraid to be vulnerable. They're thinking, oh, if this is work, I shouldn't do this.
Right.
When essentially we should, because if we remember when we remember when you played games when you were little, you just make up the rule on the spot or you try something silly just to see if it worked. And it's kind of like what Brad was talking about with this game. Like as you're going around answering those 3 questions, the other people that don't know you, that's essentially what they're doing. And they're able to in that space because of the way that he sets it up. So those little moments of openness, what happens is they do create a foundation of trust and understanding. And that's where I think the vulnerability comes out.
Yeah,
and
I think that's a perfect answer.
I'm so glad that you explained that, Brad, because that's what I think you're trying to do, and you do so successfully. And thank you for sharing.
Yeah, no, I think vulnerability is probably in the top 5% of why people don't do this. generally speaking. So Brad, in the supply chain space, you've been in it long enough now. You talk to people about this. What is it that you think is the biggest obstacle or roadblock in people doing this more often in the supply chain B2B space?
Yeah, I don't know if I can even separate supply chain B2B from other B2B, Ralph, to be honest.
Okay.
I obviously I know this one for 29 years,
Yeah.
but I I think it's in people. They just need to be led. And a lot of times people will say to me, Brad, I'm going on a fishing trip with 5 of my buddies. Give me 4 games from your book that we can play. And the first thing I say to them is, I can give you 4 games, no problem. But don't take the book out when you're there. Start reading the instructions. Everybody's going to be bored, and then you're just going to give up. You got to look at the game you want to play, read it, know it. And so when you start, people, they're going to be led. Okay, they like to be led. They don't want to have to come up, and it's that's an important part of it. I mean, Lisa said you said 2% creativity in adults. I wonder what the percentage is of people who will actually take the lead and organize the game, because that's so important. I mean, people are just shy in that way. They're just not going to take the lead. So that's really the biggest challenge, I think.
So no, and that's a great answer, both of you. And then as the host and the guide of the show, my question back to you, and Lisa, I'll start with you first again. So how do we encourage people to be more vulnerable? So Lisa, what would be your words of encouragement on being more vulnerable and giving this a shot because of how important it is?
Yeah, I mean, my first thing would be to allow yourself to play. I think we don't allow ourselves to play often enough. And I always tell everyone I have a jar behind me. It's like my play jar. And each day I have 100 different like little pieces of paper in it. And each day I pull out something and I read it. It could be like, dude, stand up and do 10 jumping jacks, or go, like, it's always something fun, not something where I'm sitting at my desk, like checking my email or checking off a to-do list. So allowing yourself to play, that's what really helps us become more vulnerable. And as we continue, it's like anything, we have to practice it, right? And that's what happens as we become adults. We stop allowing ourselves to play.
That's the encouragement. I heard somebody say one time, and I'm not going to do it as well as they did, but when we're young, our parents say, "Oh, there's nothing you can't do. You can do whatever you want."
Yes.
And as we're going through school, they encourage us and whatever. And then we get ready to go to college and we give them what we want to study. And they're like, "Are you out of your mind? You're never going to make any money with that." And I think creativity and fun and what have you, I think they're kind of cousins to that, as far as when we get into business, that we have to be more serious and we have to be, more rigid. So Brad, I appreciate your answer about this being a general thing and not a supply chain thing. So how would you encourage people in the supply chain space from a business perspective on why this is important?
We uncover a whole bunch of information about each other. And I always put that summary together, Ralph, of what happened last week. And
Yeah,
I
that's
read it,
right.
and it gets people remembering, oh, you're happier working together and for each other. It just, everybody becomes more human. You're just so much better connected. So why not get
Yeah.
vulnerable? Yeah, and
Yeah, so I love that. Helping the audience, be vulnerable and why not so far are really powerful things. So having said that, Lisa, in closing, what would you say to the audience? What should they remember and what should they do coming out of this podcast?
When I say, like, remember that play does break down barriers. It makes it easier to connect with people, to empathize with what they're going through, and then to relate to one another on a deeper level. To Brad's point, that's basically what he was just saying. And if we think about why childhood friendships often felt so effortless, it was because they were based on mutual engagement, not more hours logged together. So just remember to play. Like, just take 5 minutes out of your day and play. Take a piece of paper out and write down 5 things that you consider to be playful activities. Put them in a jar somewhere and pull one out each day if you need help.
And so, Brad, how about you? Like, what would you say would be something that would be good to remember from today's talk?
Well, I mean, I gave a bunch of examples. I have hundreds more, and there's just so many things you can do. You can even organize a pickleball event, Ralph. I mean, everyone can do that, as I think many know now. Anyone can play that. I mean, I had an employee of ours, a former employee, call me up, and she started working for a robotics company, and she said, "Brad, you're never going to believe what they're making me do next weekend." I said, "They're making you play pickleball, aren't they?" And she goes, "How do you know that?" Because that's what everybody's doing now. And she went and she had a blast, and she came back from that, obviously getting to know the whole new group she had there, and there's so many options you have.
Yeah, no, I really appreciate it. And look, folks who are watching and listening to this, let me give you what I want you to remember and what I want you to do. What I want you to remember is that having fun is two things. One, it's having fun. Let's not forget, it's okay to have fun. But the other thing is, you are actually creating more trust with the people you're having fun with. So if you're doing this with prospects, here's what we know about trust. It reduces the amount of time that it takes for me to do business with people, and it increases the profit because of that reduction in time. Think about that for a second. I want you to remember that. Having fun, increased trust, reduces the sales cycle, increases profit. You need to talk to somebody in your organization about funding having fun, just let them know that. And then as far as what you can do is, you can think about this, and then you can send Supply Chain Brain Media and the Supply Chain Marketing Show your ideas. I would love to hear what you guys are doing to have fun. I would love to hear what you're doing to engage with your prospects, with your colleagues, with your clients. Give us some ideas. We're happy to give you some ideas. And with that, I want to thank my guests immensely, Lisa Jones and Brad Berger. Thank you both for being on the show. And for the rest of you, go have some fun, because at the end of the day, personally and professionally, it's just better. Have a great day, everybody.
To discover how you can blend your marketing instruments into a harmonious sound and rise above the noise, schedule a 30-minute consultative session. Email morgan@supplychainbrainmedia.com. Again, that email address is morgan@supplychainbrainmedia.com. If you have any questions or episode suggestions, you can send those to morgan@supplychainbrainmedia.com. Thank you for joining us for this episode of the Supply Chain Marketing Show, presented by Supply Chain Brain Media. This is an omni-channel production in conjunction with PWE Media.